How did you get started?
So I was a university professor and had bought a house in 2006. And then we went through the housing crisis in 2008. And um, I talked to my bank and said, "Hey, I'm going to get cut back at work. I'm not going to be able to make this mortgage." And then they said, "Well, we won't talk to you until you stop paying." And that was not the way I was brought up. And I realized, oh, what we've been taught as to be good citizens doesn't necessarily fit. That's not exactly what happens in the business world and in the finance world. You have to prove that you can't pay, and so things like integrity go out the window. And I just thought, what's happening? My life is changing. And I started that exploration of finding out how the real world works, the world that makes the machinery go. And I've been trying to get people at least the tools for success so they don't make mistakes like I made, where you buy a house because people are telling you that's what you need to be doing, and your realtor just wants to make the transaction. you know so yeah, that's kind of how it started.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting enough, Glenn, is you're hitting home. I am a full-time real estate agent. So
Nice. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I when
I
I
get
moved when I moved to Los Angeles and people found out what my vision was, I ran into a lot of realtors and agents and brokers. And so that was kind of it was an opportunity for realtors in 2008, 2006 to 2010 to leave their integrity behind because the money was so good. And I think that's a realization for some realtors and other, you know, it's a world out there. We've built a system where it's about what you can get.
yes.
And some people have this idea that it's not about what you can get. And unfortunately, those people become victims of the people that know it's really about what you can get.
Yeah.
And everything else, the benevolence, the altruism, that all sounds great and it makes us feel really warm.
Yeah.
But life is chaos. and and you have to hopefully keep your integrity, but realize people are just trying to survive. And the stability we have, the success we have is built on the backs of others suffering. So are you going to be one of those people that are going to be suffering, or are you going to kind of navigate to maybe not be the mark? And so I can't fault realtors.
Yeah.
I believe me, I was really faulting realtors in 2006, 2008, but they have kids too. They have families too. They have rents and mortgages too. One of the things that I always say, the problem we just keep creating new homeless
Yeah.
is because we have invested ourselves out of shelter.
Absolutely.
Realty is an investment opportunity now, and it's not a necessity for human beings anymore. And so we're always going to have problems if we don't look at shelter as a necessity instead of something that you can passively grow income with. We
Yeah.
will always be creating homeless people.
Yes.
And I don't know the solution for how realty can be those two things at the same time,
Yeah.
but we have to work at it. We have to figure it out, because I've been working on this homelessness game since 2010,
Hmm.
and it's never gotten better. In 2012, it kind of got better than in 2008, but then we went back to business as normal because the machine was running again, and values meant something, and people had trust in the markets again. And so we started exploiting people again. And so we're right back to where we started in 2008 with homelessness, and or worse.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't see it changing as long as we are playing the same game.
Yes. And integrity is means a lot. It means a lot. Also, I believe knowing your own morals and values and where and how you desire to be treated, do the same for others. And I definitely, like I said, when you hit home on two notes for me, I said, you know what, this was great moment for me today, because it definitely brings it back to understanding that being honest and not pushing people past, their limits, and truly understanding and pretty much doing what you're doing, just trying to stop homelessness, but also meeting people where they are. So I tell you, I truly appreciate what you're saying and what you've done and what you're doing.
Yeah, I think my TEDx is called Small Business Homeless, and it was looking at how entrepreneurs could use their skills as entrepreneurs to at least make a dent, and using what opportunities they had, and that ability to look for opportunities instead of roadblocks.
Yeah.
Because in the homeless world, we look at roadblocks and sadness all the time.
Yeah.
Let's not do that. Let's celebrate the little wins. Let's take all those entrepreneurial skills that people learn in selling and use them back towards humanity. I just saw a tweet about the Amish being able to build small homes for $20,000 in 3 days, where it takes Los Angeles $6 million in 3 years. And it's, yeah, because we are trying to replace family and community with capitalism, and that is very expensive.
Yeah.
But the Amish know that family and community and not investing yourselves out of shelter are things that shouldn't be passively scaled, right? It's just,
Absolutely.
so yeah, as long as we can figure out what we need and can scale. I always say my investment advice is live in a tent and buy gold, because for some reason over millennia, gold never is unvaluable. It always, some reason we like the shiny soft metal,
Yes.
right? And that's an investment opportunity. I don't know if housing should be an investment opportunity. Maybe luxury housing, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But starter homes, apartments, and I feel for the people that are apartment owners that are, they're also trying to make it. That's how their American dream is happening. That, right? And they have to pay repairs. I tell my landlady all the time, I owned a home and I know it's a struggle. Something's always breaking.
Yes.
Something needs to be fixed. It's insane. The property taxes keep going up, and it's it we have built so many conundrums for ourselves. And I hope I can be the inspiration to get people to back away and look for those little opportunities of light, so we can celebrate those wins instead of being sad and just doing the same thing and wondering why it's not changing.
And I know when it comes to a lot of this, we did this in communities, right? I visited the homeless shelter because it was in the community. And so as we speak about homelessness, I know that it's a bigger challenge to try to get, the entire city to join in, but how can communities better support efforts to tackle homelessness?
Yeah, I'm really unpopular because the way I see it is a boots on the ground model, where we are just taking a neighborhood block by block,
Mhm.
and you start with the homeless people you see every day, and
Yeah.
you say, what can we do to support you? And then you as a neighborhood figures it out, and then the next neighborhood, and then the next neighborhood. The thing is, it's really dirty work, right? And people are busy, and it's not their priority to try and be the community member for someone that they don't know. But I'm saying it, it either is, or we're never going to solve this.
Yeah.
And the few wins that I had, I got when I owned a home, there was a woman that I met that, even though my wife told me I couldn't bring homeless people home, met someone and I said, I can't not. And so I made a deal with my wife, and we brought her back in, and she was not, she was what I guess people would call a safe homeless person. She wasn't addicted to drugs. She wasn't hurt. She went into homelessness because she stopped working so she could take care of her sick mother. And then her sick mother died, and then she got stuck, and she was in her mid 50s. And what are you going to do? So she was living behind a grocery store. And I said, I can't let this person do that. So we brought her in, and I bought her a bus pass, and I bought her phone minutes so she could call for job interviews and then get to the job interview. And then she ended up getting a job. And within 9 months of living at our house, she got her life back. Now, I'm not saying everybody can do that,
Yeah.
but I also have this Skid Row Speakers series on YouTube where I go and I pay homeless people for inspirational words. That other thing of entrepreneurs are always trying to figure out how to inspire themselves and inspire other people, because that grows your groups around people and it makes you happy.
Yeah.
And so once I go to them and I say, you have some value, please share it with the world and I will pay you, that clicks them into this other headspace of not pitying themselves, and then they want to get out. And I had a win of a lady that I interviewed in Las Vegas. She called me 2-3 weeks later, because that's probably part of the also legitimizing is I give her my business card. I'm not afraid that she's going to call me when at weird hours of the night and ask me for drugs or whatever. And she called me back and she said, because of that experience of you interviewing me, it made me realize my life is worth something. And I went back into rehab.
Mm-hmm.
Done. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a little win. Maybe she didn't stay in rehab, but we get to grab onto those and have those success stories as we deal with our communities that are struggling, that don't have families and communities to support them. And that's how I always say, how many chances do you give your son or your daughter or your uncle or your nephew? Look at it that way.
Yeah.
Don't give them an excuse to fail. Support them as
Yeah.
best you can. You have to take care of yourself. Like lifeguard rules, I always say, take care of yourself so you can take care of others.
Yes. Yeah. And it's definitely something you have to learn and look deeply into. It's the way that you started is amazing as I read your story. And I know it's pretty well stated for me, but I want our audience to know, what's your why?
Um, Man, my why, it's the voice in the back of my head. It's probably my grandfather and
Mm,
my parents telling me, you have to be a good citizen. You have to solve problems. You have to be a stand-up human being. And that, with however I'm built, because some people get that message and then they rebel against it or whatever it is. But I just have to, I always say I have to do what the little voice in the back of my head tells me I have to do.
yeah, yeah,
And if I don't, I get sad. So for some, that's my why.
yeah. That little voice sometimes speaks so loud where you can't help but to just acknowledge it and do it.
Yeah.
And I definitely get that. What's the biggest misconception of homelessness?
That it is a certain demographic.
Mm,
I was under the impression in 2009 that homelessness was drug addicted, mentally ill people, period. All
yes.
drug addiction, all mental illness. That is why there's homeless people. And that is not the truth. I'd say the variety of people housed is same as the variety of people homeless.
Mm-hmm. And that's important to know. Just like you mentioned, the other individual who stopped working to help the family, decided to move out and help her family, and then got stuck, you
Yeah.
know. And I have to say, Glenn, I have met some individuals. I'll never forget this woman, and she stated, "I have a master's degree." I mean, and I have to be honest, Glenn, I was shocked, right? And again, that's when I learned that the misconception that I thought, which was what is displayed to most of us, is
Right.
that there's drugs and there's, other things. And when she said that, she's like, this is a choice of mine. Now, she was in a homeless shelter that housed for a couple of years, but she said this was a choice of hers. But the best way to do and understand homelessness is to ask questions, right? And not assume, which is
Right.
exactly what you did. And now going on the, to them and asking for their inspirational stories, which I'm sure
Yes.
changes your life as well.
I have learned so much from the homeless.
Yeah.
And my first book, Things I've Learned from the Homeless, is is from that life inspiration and that life knowledge that I gained from people that are suffering. And I keep telling them, that homeless population, you have so much to offer. And then I keep telling the housed population, they have so much to offer.
Yeah.
And hopefully that changes the hearts and minds to get some of that engagement going, to both help people that are housed and help people that are not housed, so we can kind of become a community that raises people up, because people do get stuck for one reason or another.
Mhm.
I've been really fortunate. I've had a stable family throughout my 30s and 40s, that when I got stuck, I knew they were there for me. If everything else went wrong, I could at least go back to Sacramento where my family is.
Yeah.
Not everyone has that,
Yeah.
and everyone gets stuck.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
can you be that community for someone that doesn't have a family?
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's what I think about that. That's beautiful. What are the greatest joys of what you do?
The greatest joys of what I do, I get to see the light turn on in people's minds,
Yeah.
especially working with the subject of homelessness, because it's just a sad thing.
Yeah.
And people that are on the street are just living this sadness. So what I do is I get to bring some opportunity for them to think differently about it, and to not be sad about it, and to watch that light come on in their eyes, or that brain switch into a positive thinking wavelength, is just,
Mm.
it keeps me going. It keeps me wanting to think, how can I change more hearts and minds? How can I get the message out there? How can I make actual boots on the ground difference? A friend of mine said, well, what you're doing is really nice, but do you actually help the homeless? Like, do you give out socks and whatnot? And those techniques are always what I consider just techniques to keep people homeless. You know, you're spending resources to give people day-to-day needs, which they need, but you spend those resources getting people out. But those things really inspire people. So, all right, yeah, I am going to walk LA and hand out what I called the bag bags. My last short film is called The Bag. So I handed out the bag bags. And yeah, those images of me handing out bright orange care packages to homeless people in North Hollywood and Burbank, people gravitate towards those naturally. They give people joy. On Instagram and Twitter, they are the most viral posts I have ever posted,
Wow.
because that kind of inspiration. I thought, don't give my friend an excuse to say, well, you're not really helping people. No, I am. Oh, you want me to do this? Well, this is valid too. And then it feeds on people, and it hopefully, it feeds into people, and hopefully gives them inspiration to do something themselves, because I can't do it all. Right? I would love to find a way to put my money where my mouth is, and I've got my boots on the ground plan, and I'm still looking for ways to do that, but I'm not there yet. So until then, how can I get other people to also think about ways that they can support their community?
And if I may ask, is that the goal of being on podcast and doing more podcasts?
I am constantly, as an entrepreneur and as a creative, I'm looking for my ticket to scale passive income, so then I can burn money on supporting communities and have kind of a proof, a more, you never have enough proof. I've noticed
Okay.
you
Yeah.
always have to prove
Yeah.
your legitimacy. So even though I've done things, I need to do more things to say, no, this program is what I have an idea of doing, and I want to document it fully,
Mhm.
so then we can pull it apart and say, well, this worked and this is why it worked, or this didn't work and this is why it worked, and really make that public, because so many people, especially homeless service providers are so worried about judgment that everyone walks around skirting liability.
Mhm.
And I think the only way to make success is to head into liability, but to do it in a really open way where you can justify your decisions and get support from people that would normally say, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, they're drug addicted. You know that that was going to be a bad thing, right?
yeah. And it's definitely data. That's the first thing I thought about is data. In order for someone to invest or to be invested, they want to see data. And that, like you said, that's proof. And I think that even as you mentioned, being an entrepreneur and a businessman and with the, your boots to the ground, it's all about data for other individuals. But this is such an important thing that you're doing. And I know it's not about you, but I do want to say congratulations on your US Today.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, and which means that you're getting it out there, and you're doing, you're listening to the voice behind your head. And I want to tell you, Glenn, I'm super proud of you.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you so much.
you're welcome. If I could be and do what you do on a daily basis, I would. But guess what I can do? I can
Right.
use my integrity as a real estate agent, and I can make sure that I'm meeting people where I am, and that's where your community and my community will join so that I make sure that I'm not doing the wrong thing. And I tell you, I can spread this with all my friends to
Please.
let them know, hey, this is a big deal and we'd love it. And yes, we do get money for it, but it's such an important thing to make sure that that person is being met where they are. So,
Yeah.
Glenn,
Absolutely. And just, it's okay to make money. That
yeah,
is what we bought into,
yes,
right? That is the society we live in.
yeah,
You have to make money to survive. So
yeah,
figure out how to do it without exploiting people, hopefully,
yeah,
but someone, there's always, this system is based on someone winning and someone losing. It's just, and
yeah,
that's the way nature is too. In order for some one animal to eat, another animal has to die. So it's a hard one, but
yeah.
be the best person you can be. Do what you can. Stay on the happy side of your brain as much as you possibly can. Help as many people as you can, and just try not to walk away from people, because that's what we have now. We have freedom equals neglect.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.